Hey, what's up guys? This is Michael from Karate Breakdown. If you guys have never been to this channel, I'm a huge advocate for karate kata as human movements. And it's not what you train, it's how you train. My goal with this channel is always about showing people all the applications for those dances or forms that you do in your karate classes. And today we're looking at martial arts from Southeast Asia. It was actually kind of hard for me to try to label this video because it's either Silat, which is an umbrella term, or Filipino martial arts, which is another umbrella term, but it's also missing, Arnis, Eskrima, and all the other, Indonesian martial arts as well. So I figured Southeast Asia would kind of cover all of it. I usually break down these videos into a few key concepts or similarities between the two styles. So with the Southeast Asian martial arts, you want to think you intercept or redirect whatever's coming at you. And once you make contact with the opponent, you're either going to break that line, like a limb destruction, or you're going to take the person down. And it's very similar to what karate people do as well. If you guys think about the shuto uke, which is essentially a passing technique where you're passing a strike to the other hand or to the other limb, and then that gives you the angle on your opponent so that you can start attacking them from 45 degrees. And then once you have the good angle on your opponent, you either have opportunities for limb destruction, which is essentially hyperextension of the elbows, dislocating the shoulder. You have neck manipulations as well. And if you can't get that limb destruction, you can still use that as a setup for a takedown. And once you take the person down, you can stay on your feet and strike them from up top. Or like in Dumog and other martial arts, you can also follow them down and subdue them on the ground as well. We won't talk about that part of it just because it doesn't look like the conventional karate that people see. So we'll keep it standing, but the concepts are the same. For karate, you're either going to crash in as your opponent strikes, or you're going to redirect as your opponent strikes. And then you can also, fade away and bounce back in, which you see a lot in point sparring karate. I'm a big advocate for the clinch and grappling, and therefore very rarely am I ever going to talk about dashing back and then dashing back in. But of course, a large population of karate people do that, so nothing against that. It's just not what I do. My assumption is always the opponent's bigger, stronger, faster than me. Speed and agility is a skill that degrades over time, so as I get older, I don't want to rely on that, and therefore I need to develop that touch sensitivity within the clinch, and that's my equalizer against a larger opponent or a faster opponent. As long as I get my hands on them, then I feel very comfortable. Again, that's not to say that I never did the point sparring thing. I did that for many years of my life growing up, but I've just seen it time and time again that the speed will degrade over time. No matter how good you are, Father Time is undefeated, and therefore you have to develop other skills. Anyways, getting off my soapbox and getting back to this comparison. So look at this movement, Naihachi Shodan. They call it like the Namigaeshi, or the returning wave kick. Looks a lot like a foot sweep here, where you lift the kicking leg up after you catch it and then sweep out the bottom leg. Now looking at the Silat competition, their tournament sparring is really interesting. No strikes to the face, but if you guys look at their legs, they pull them back super quick. And they're still throwing with force. It was very interesting to see, because you think the typical karate point sparring, they're hitting each other, but they're not trying to hit hard. Whereas in this tournament, they're allowed to hit hard, they're wearing a chest piece. But if they leave their leg out too long, then the other person will catch it and throw that sweep immediately. It's like they're trained to kick hard, pull it back fast. And if the leg's out there, you're going to get swept and thrown to the ground. And that's such a good skill and a good trigger to learn. And if you look at karate tournaments, there are similar sweeps that happen. However, the trigger is different. So sometimes you do go in and try to go for the sweep preemptively and charge in with that. But a lot of times, both people are trying to strike, and then they both get locked up. And then the sweep happens when they're in the clinch, and it's the first person to react after the lockup, right? The reaction off the break, which is a very interesting dynamic, because generally speaking, for the karate guy, the sweep becomes reactive and a secondary option, and for the Silat competitor, the sweep becomes proactive and you're looking for that sweep. And that changes how you approach a fight and how you train for that fight as well. And if you guys like this type of content, go to karatebreakdown.com. We're building a nice community of like-minded individuals, and there's tons of video content that I'm still building out weekly. It breaks down into these different categories. So if I go into kata breakdown here, I'm trying to get to the point where you can just go in here and filter by the kata you're looking for. Let's look at all the Naihachi ones, and it's all going to pop up here for your reference. These are great long form videos that do a deeper dive into each individual technique. There's also a discussion board with a lot of people sharing and talking about their training and training ideas. Speaking of Naihanchi, going back to the more self-defense stuff, you have a lot of things like the Naihanchi opening up the frame in the clinch to the elbow, all these circular movements in Naihanchi Nidan, Sandan. It's like you're swimming around trying to get overhooks, underhook. And then you also have things like this, which is like a sweep or a trip, an outside trip from Naihanchi Nidan. The 180 turns if you're doing a clothesline takedown. There's a lot of these things that you'll see if you have the eyes to look for them and the willingness to keep your mind open. Hey everyone, this is Michael. Thanks for watching the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you really are interested in learning more about this, go to karatebreakdown.com.